Okay, so this is not going to be my usual video for several reasons. As I stated in my last video, I've had some problems with ship controls. I'll go into that later. Before I get started, I want to point out that I'm not a newbie. I've been here since all we had was the hangar module. I remember having the ability to pull up 5 ships into 5 separate bays, and the only thing we could do was get into our little PTV, the golf cart, and drive around all 5 bays, around all 5 ships. We could get into our ships if they were, well, we could get into any of the ships, but if they were multi-crew, we could actually get inside and walk around. I can remember spending hours inside, pulling down the elevator or the cargo bay of my Connie, going up inside and walking around the inside of my Constellation, sitting in the chairs, getting into the turrets. I couldn't do anything. I could just walk around, but that was enough, at least for the time. So I've been here for a while. Okay. I watched Bad News Baron push a Big Benny's machine out of Kovalek's, out through the entrance into his ship, take it back to Port Olazar, and eventually back into his hab. I watched Sean Tracy overshoot the hangar the first time that he was showing off planetary landings at Levski. So I've been around a while. I've seen a few things. I'm not going to whine. I'm going to point out. I'm also going to point out that unlike apparently most people who create content for Star Citizen, I actually am a programmer and have been for almost 50 years. My dad taught me how to program in BASIC when I was 12, back in the late 70s. And again, BASIC was just the first language I learned. But I've got some insight. I understand just how hard this game is to create and how hard it is to make it work. I am not in any way ever going to put down the guys and gals at CIG for what they're doing. They are doing an incredible job. I understand exactly how hard it is to get what we've got. And I want to be honest. This is the game I always thought I'd have to write. I also understand that we all are alpha testers. This is not a released game. It's in alpha. They keep talking about 1.0, which sounds like release, but typically you go through beta first, so I'm kind of curious about that. I'll be curious to hear what they say about that. So let's move on to the problems that I'm seeing. And maybe you're seeing some of these too. Now, I have had issues now and again, once in a while, once in a blue moon, with various patches that have come out. But typically it didn't affect me. When everybody else was having the problem where they appeared to be a sphere on their bed in their hab, that didn't affect me in any way. Never had that problem. Since 4.4, when Nyx came in, I have started seeing problems. And again, we expect problems. It's just extremely frustrating. One of the big problems I've seen is crashing to desktop. Now, that's not irrecoverable. You sit there and wait for it to come up and say, hey, what happened? You answer the question, or you just click submit, either way, and it comes up and says, thank you for your submission. And then you reload the game. Not a big deal. It's a little bit of a bigger problem when the game causes your entire computer to reboot. And that is a problem I have been seeing since Nyx came in 4.4. Now, I can't say for sure that it's Star Citizen. It might be OBS because typically I'm running both at the same time, and I understand that both are resource hogs. And I'm not running on a potato. I have an i7 14700K running at 3.4 gigahertz. I have 64 gig of RAM. Yes, that's gig, not gigs. You all sound like idiots when you add an S at the end. I've got an NVIDIA 3080 with 12 gig of VRAM. Yeah, it's not the latest and greatest, but it's also not too terrible. I have a total of 18.19 terabytes of hard drive storage, because I am creating video. And I'm running on Windows 11 Pro 64-bit. I know, but we work with the tools we have. So my system is not a potato. It's actually a pretty high end. Yes, it's a couple of years old. These systems are expensive, and lately RAM and hard drives have gotten even more expensive. But I purposely put this system together to edit video, and to run Star Citizen. So I don't think it's my system. Now, what problems are running into? Well, okay, like I said, crashing to desktop. It happens. And okay, it's a minor inconvenience. I don't mind that because when it comes back, I come right back to where I was, wherever I was. I just hope it doesn't happen while I'm in the middle of a jump between systems. That's my biggest concern. When it reboots the system, that's a little bit more of a problem, and I'll get to that in a second. I want to go more temporally in line. So the biggest problem I've had, and this started right around the time just after we got Nyx. So I'm going to say probably 4.5. I found that I had no ship control. I would come into the game. I would go into options. I would go into key bindings. I would load up my HOTAS settings. I'm running an X56. And I would find that most of my key bindings would not work. I did have a little control, and I'm trying to remember which ones. I think I had one access on the stick, but I had nothing else that would work. It seemed really weird at the time. I did figure out how to fix that. I just blew away my live directory and reloaded from the top, complete brand new reload, and that fixed the problem. That was 4.5. 4.6 comes in. One of the big problems that I faced at that time was that my live game was not working. But we were running PTU, and we also had the engineering preview going, and all my controls worked fine in both PTU and the preview. It was only in live that it wouldn't work, and that was frustrating. I understood there was a problem. I didn't know what the problem, because as soon as 4.5 came into live, suddenly it's not working. Maybe it was 4.6. As soon as it goes from working fine in PTU, as soon as it came into the live environment, suddenly my controls no longer worked. So at that point, I'm going, all right, nothing works. I'm literally dead in the water. I was trying to help someone out with some machinima, and my home base has been Levski ever since 4.4 because that's where I've always said I was going to be home, my base was going to be. And here I am having to ask people to go out of their way, come to Levski and pick me up to take me to Stanton so that we can all meet and start working on the machinima. That was not fun. So in a quiet time, when I had a little bit of time to think about it, I decided it's not working. I'm just going to blow away the live directory and bring up the launcher and let it say, well, you need to download the game. Of course, the launcher never said download. It simply said, it's not working. Maybe you should check your folder, your files. So I went through the check, and it downloaded everything. It took a while, as it does when it has to download, I don't know what we're up to, 40 gigabytes of data now? 50? 55? But once it was downloaded, suddenly everything worked fine. Sometimes that's what it takes. You have to just get rid of everything and start from scratch. Okay, again, I understand. I'm an alpha tester. Okay. So now I've got ship control back. Just in time to play around with my brand new Hermes. I was looking forward to running cargo missions from Levski to Stanton and back in the Hermes because while the cargo bay is not as convenient as, say, the raft where I can load from any position, it does have that internal tractor beam, and I found that once you get used to it, it works really well. So I was having fun. Of course, that was another issue. Every time I would take off or land, but usually it was taking off. Every time I would take off from Levski, I would call ATC. They would say, hey, you're good to go. The doors would start to open. I would go to an F4 to look outside and see where the doors were. And sometimes just after I lifted off, sometimes just before I lifted off, my ship would disappear. Well, that's odd. Now, I do remember, and I want to say it was in the PTU, when Nyx was in the PTU, I decided, and I've got a video of it, I decided I wanted to make the trek from Stanton through the jump point to Nyx so that I could see Levski in all its glory as you come into the station, not leaving it. And it was great. And so I went in and I called up a hangar. They gave me the hangar. I went to it. I dropped down in, I got most of the way down to the ground, and suddenly my ship disappeared. And I landed on my feet, health at 95%. Some bloodstains on my screen. What the hell's that? Well, I thought I must have landed in the wrong hangar. I must have gotten into someone else's hangar by mistake. Okay, fine. But as I played a little longer, played a little more, and my ships were disappearing out from under me as I'm trying to take off from what is most obviously my hangar, I start to realize, yeah, there's a problem here. So, you may have noticed in the last couple of videos that I'm up in the air and generally pointed at the direction of the hangar doors before I call up ATC, so I can get out of the hangar before that ship disappears, because it's a pain in the butt. Sometimes you can just call it right back up. Sometimes you have to claim it. Well, I don't want to have to claim it when I've got cargo on board. Not to mention tractor beam and repair tool, repair gun. So I got a video out last week, and last weekend, Friday the video comes out. Saturday is my normal day for playing, and I take off with cargo, headed for Stanton. I get to the jump point, the Nyx Stanton jump point. I wait for it to open, and I follow another ship through. And the transit through the jump point seems normal. I'm watching the other ship ahead of me the whole time. We get through. I see the exit point. I go through the exit point. And I've learned that, because I was running interstellar cargo, I can't just say, hey, I want to go to New Babbage. Because if I do that, it says, your destination's in another star system. Okay. So you call up and you route to the Nyx Stanton jump station. You go through the jump point, and then on the other side of the jump point, I pull up my Mobiglass, my star map, and click on the destination saying, hey, I need to go here. Well, I did that, and it says, your destination's in another star system. What do you mean it's in another star system? I'm in Stanton, right? Drop the star map, bring it back up so it's centered on my ship, scroll out slowly. Sure enough, I'm at the jump station at the Nyx Stanton jump point in Nyx. How that happened, I have no idea. So, okay, let me turn around because I'm facing away from the jump point. Get back around, get positioned for the jump. Jump point opens up. I'm about ready to jump, and suddenly my system just drops. Complete reboot. You can imagine that's just a little frustrating. What's even more frustrating is when I was able to finally get back on, and it didn't take me 15 minutes. It might have taken me, 5 or 6 minutes to get everything rebooted and started. Get into the game, and I spawn at my hangar. Go up to the ship console and check, and sure enough, my ship needs to be claimed. So I claimed the ship, and then rage quit. I was just frustrated. It was a frustrating day. Nothing was going right. So, these are some of the issues I have run into since Nyx. Now, do I think it's a problem with Nyx? Possibly. Because, quite honestly, I haven't spent a whole lot of time outside of Nyx. I haven't been able to get outside of Nyx. But, then again, maybe it's not. I don't know. One thing I do know is that no matter how bad things start, they always get to the point where you don't even think about them. Anyone remember persistence? How about entity streaming? The first few weeks of server meshing, they were all horrible. They were horrible experiences. Now you don't think about any of it. It just happened. It's all in the background. So I absolutely believe that all of this will be fixed, and it'll be fixed relatively soon. It's just frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. And if I am feeling the frustration, and I, like I said, as a programmer, have at least some knowledge of how things work, I have to believe that it's just as frustrating, if not more so, for the average person who just wants to get on and play a little bit of Star Citizen. So I thought I'd make this video just expressing my frustrations and pointing out that it will get better. It always gets better. Anyway, hopefully this weekend I'll be able to get on and make some cargo runs and get back to my normal content. Till then, see ya!